We're reading the Parsha of Bilam and Balak this Shabbat. And Bilam is someone who can only curse. It's as if he only has a bad eye. That's the way the Mishnah describes him. But when he sees the people of Israel, somehow his eye is transformed. Vayisa Bilam et einav, he lifted up his eyes. Vayar et Israel, he sees Israel. Shochein lishvatav, dwelling to its tribes. And then the text says, Vatahi alav ruach Elohim. The Spirit of God came upon him, and then he produces these blessings. But somehow it's the sight of Israel that opens his eye. And the commentators say, quoting the Gemara in our tractate in Bava Batra, that what he saw was that when the tents of the people of Israel were arranged, their front doors did not open directly, did not open directly onto one another. They did not face one another. In other words, the sight lines were arranged so as to provide privacy. And we've already discussed at the beginning of this tractate about the value of privacy, the fact that we can oblige someone in a shared courtyard to participate in putting up a partition to protect privacy. In other words, privacy has a value. It has value in the time of the Mishnah, way before the current discussions we're experiencing today. So this is the subject of the final two Mishnayot of the third chapter. We're going to close the third chapter, which has dealt with presumption of title. And we'll see that it ends with an issue about presumption of title, but it performs a long journey or a short journey off into privacy. And it begins, Lo yiftach adam chalonotav lachatzer shutafim. A person shouldn't open up windows onto a shared courtyard. So we're in the seventh Mishnah now of the third chapter. Lo yiftach adam chalonotav lachatzer shutafim. Someone shouldn't open up his windows onto the shared courtyard. In other words, if he's currently, and if he has a window, by the way, in his house, then he has a chazakah, a presumption of status. So people can't make him take it away. But he's not allowed to open up a new window looking out onto a shared courtyard. And lakach bait b'chatzer acheret. If he buys a house in another courtyard, lo yiftachenu lachatzer shutafin. He shouldn't open it into the shared courtyard. In other words, he's bought a house that opens onto a different courtyard. Maybe he has the option of opening up the back or opening it up in a different way to open up onto his shared courtyard. But that will create traffic. That will create more people coming and seeing and walking through. He can't do that. He can't buy a house and create an opening, a traffic opening. A traffic opening where one doesn't exist already. And it's the same, by the way, if he subdivides his house or if he builds some kind of new apartment. So bana, let's keep going. Bana aliyah al gabei beito. So he builds an apartment above his house, an attic apartment. Lo yiftachenu lechatzer shutafin. It's the same principle. He shouldn't open it onto the shared courtyard. Perhaps he can build a set of steps coming down from the attic out onto the shared courtyard. But of course, that will create traffic. That will create new people. We respect the shared courtyard and the privacy and the calm. He can't do that. What does he do? But if he wants to do something, he can build the room inside his house. In other words, he builds the attic opening out into his house. And he can build an attic on top of his house. And he can make these extra rooms open out into his house. You can extend your house and make it open into the house. You can't extend your house and make it open up into the shared courtyard. And similarly, and of course, now this is the issue that that Bilam noticed. Lo yiftach adam lechatzer shutafin petach keneged petach. A person shouldn't open up a door onto a shared courtyard opposite a door. We don't build doors opposite doors because we see right into the other's private space. Chalon keneged chalon, and we don't build a window opposite a window. We respect people's sightlines. Hezek raya, as the Gemara puts it, there's damage associated with sight. We avoid that. Similarly, maybe the window was small. Haya katan, we had a small window. Lo yasenu gadol, he can't enlarge it. Echad lo yasenu shnaim, if it's a single window, he can't make it double. Aval, but poteach hu lirshut harabim petach keneged petach, in the public domain. This is not on a shared courtyard. This is outside on the street, on a big street, a street where people are just coming by all the time. We're out in the marketplace here. Out in the marketplace, he can make a door opposite a door in the public space, and a window opposite a window. If it's a small window, or se oto gadol, he can make it big. Echad or se oto shinaim. If it's single window, he can make it double. When we're in public space, we don't need to take the same care that we need to take when we are in the courtyard. The courtyard is halfway between private and public space, and people expect their privacy to be respected in a courtyard in a way that's different from their expectation if they're out in the street. What about other kinds of infringement on the public space? So we've said, okay, we can open up a door opposite a door. We can enlarge a window. We can open a window opposite a window. The Mishnah continues, Ein osin halal tachat reshut harabim. We don't make a cavity underneath the public domain. This is someone digging a cellar. We don't dig a cellar out underneath the public domain, out underneath the street. It's a big issue in London, actually, where people are digging cellars all over the place. We don't do that. And similarly, borot, shichin, umarot, cisterns or trenches or caves, we might have all kinds of drainage infrastructure, but a private person doesn't dig them out underneath a street, underneath the public space. Now, interestingly, Rabbi Eliezer is going to permit. Rabbi Eliezer matir. Now, we know that Rabbi Eliezer has a particular affinity with cisterns. Rabbi Eliezer is described as a cistern. He's a sealed cistern that doesn't lose a drop. That's how his teacher, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, describes him. Rabbi Eliezer never repeats something. He's a sealed cistern. So he never repeats something that he hasn't heard from his teacher. Of course, he never forgets anything that he's heard from his teacher. He's got this affinity with cisterns, and he permits Kadesha to hey agala mahalechet tu'una avanim. He permits it if it's such that a wagon can go loaded with stones. So his permission is qualitative, if you like. He won't allow the street to be destroyed, but he thinks if the road is strong enough, we can make a cistern underneath it. Rabbi Eliezer has an affinity with cisterns. Having said that, ein motzein zizin uchtzot sroriot. We don't build projections and balconies. We might dig underneath a little bit, maybe according to Rabbi Eliezer, but we don't make projections and balconies. Lirshut harabim, out in public space. Someone on a car is going to knock against the projection or knock against the balcony. Someone passing by will hurt themselves. We don't push our building out into public space. Ela imratsa. But if he wants some kind of projection or balcony, kones letoch shel or umotzi. If he wants to make a balcony, he basically starts from inside his own property. He starts building inside, and then he extends. In other words, he extends up to his boundary. He doesn't extend out into public space. Lakach chatzer uva zizim uchtzotzoriot. What if he bought a courtyard and it already had projections and balconies? So he's not making a new one. He buys a property that already has these things. Harei zo kechezkata. His right to it is presumed, i.e., now we're going back to chazakah, to presumption. If he buys the property with these projections and balconies, his right to them is presumed. Harei zo kechezkata. And of course, this is the end of the chapter about chazakah, about presumption of ownership.